Close your eyes. Step out of the frantic, flickering light of the modern world. Feel the floor beneath you transform. It is no longer wood or carpet. It is packed earth, frozen as hard as iron and covered in a thin, dry layer of rushes. You are in the north. It is the year 900, and the sun has given up on the sky. You wouldn't last a day here because your mind is used to the sun. You are used to the idea that the day belongs to you. But here, in the deep midwinter of Scandinavia, the day is a fleeting gray ghost that lasts only a few hours before the bruised purple of twilight returns. The silence is the first thing that would break you. It is a heavy, physical weight. It is the sound of 3 feet of snow pressing down on the world, muffling the forests, choking the fjords, and turning the earth into a tomb of ice. Listen to the wind outside. It isn't a gale. It is a long, low whistle through the chinks in the timber walls. It sounds like a flute carved from a frozen bone. Whistle and fade. Whistle and fade. Inside the longhouse, the air is a different world. It is thick. It is a soup of peat smoke, roasted barley, and the musk of damp wool. You are sitting on a raised wooden bench. Your body is wrapped in a cloak of wadmal, a wool so thick and oily that it feels like a second skin. It is heavy on your shoulders. Let that heaviness sink into your bed now. Feel the weight of the Viking winter pressing you down into your mattress. You wouldn't last a day because of the smoke. It doesn't rise and leave through a chimney. There are no chimneys here. It drifts. It loiters. It hangs in a permanent hazy veil just above your head, painting the rafters in a glistening coat of black soot. You learn to breathe slowly. You learn to move low to the ground. Breathe in the oak smoke. Breathe out the cold. Let's look at your hands. In the modern world, your hands are busy. They tap, they swipe, they reach. Here, your hands must learn the art of the long wait. You are holding a piece of pine wood and a small iron knife. Your only job for the next 4 hours is to whittle. Shave and drop. Shave and drop. The curl of wood falls into the rushes. You aren't making a masterpiece. You are making a spoon, or perhaps just a peg. It doesn't matter. The rhythm is the medicine. The wood is soft, yielding to the bite of the iron. The smell of fresh pine sap cuts through the heavy smoke, a sharp, bright scent of a forest that is currently sleeping under the frost. You wouldn't last a day because you crave progress. But in the Viking winter, progress is simply staying warm. Progress is the slow, rhythmic chewing of dried fish. Progress is the heartbeat of the person sitting next to you on the bench. The fire in the central hearth is the heart of the house. It is a long, rectangular pit of glowing embers. It doesn't roar. A roaring fire wastes wood. It hums. It settles. A log shifts, sending a tiny constellation of orange sparks up into the smoky rafters. Watch them. They are the only stars you will see today. They drift up, turning from orange to gold, then to a dull red, before they vanish into the black soot above. Drift and vanish. Drift and vanish. Outside, the wolves are silent. Even they are huddled in the dark. The world has stopped. The history of the Vikings isn't just about the raids or the steel. It is about this, the infinite, boring, beautiful endurance of the dark. You are safe here. The walls are 3 feet thick. The roof is sod and timber. You are tucked into the throat of the winter, and the winter is humming you to sleep. You have survived the first hour of the dark. The hearth fire has settled into a deep, rhythmic pulse of crimson light. Now your ears begin to pick up the heartbeat of the longhouse. It is a sound that has continued since the first frost, and will not stop until the first fall. Clack, slide, thump. Across the hall, the upright warp-weighted loom stands like a wooden god. It is tall, made of rough-hewn pine, leaning slightly against the rafters. Hanging from the threads are dozens of smooth, round stones, river stones, heavy and cold, used to pull the wool taut. Clack, slide, thump. You wouldn't last a day because of the patience required for a single inch of progress. You are watching a woman weave a sail for a long ship. To you, a sail is just a piece of fabric. To her, it is a year of her life. Every thread of the warp was spun by hand, twisted between a finger and a thumb, hour after hour, until the miles of yarn filled the baskets. Imagine the sound of the stones. When she moves the heddle rod to change the threads, the stones shift. They brush against one another with a hollow, melodic ring. It is the sound of the earth singing in the dark. Ring and settle. Ring and settle. The wool is greasy wool. It still carries the lanolin from the sheep. As the wooden shuttle slides through the threads, it leaves a faint sheep-like scent in the air, mixing with the wood smoke. It is a smell of survival. It is the smell of a creature that stayed warm in the rain, and now that warmth is being passed to you. You watch her hand. It moves with the grace of a pendulum. She does not hurry. To hurry is to break a thread. To break a thread is to invite the cold into the ship next summer. Instead, she moves with the slow, inevitable pace of the seasons. Pass the shuttle. Beat the wool. Shift the stones. You find yourself breathing in time with the loom. In as the shuttle slides, out as the wooden batten strikes the cloth. The cloth is thick, a heavy twill of cream and charcoal gray. It feels rough, but as you watch, it looks like a soft, rolling landscape. You wouldn't last a day because your world is made of instant things. Here, everything is earned through the repetition of 1,000 small movements. The weaver's eyes are not on the finished sail. They are on the single thread, the single intersection, the single moment. Let your mind become like that loom. Let your thoughts be the threads, stretched tight and heavy by the stones. Feel the rhythmic clack of the wood deep in your chest. The house is breathing. The loom is breathing. You are breathing. The shadows on the wall are long and thin. They dance in time with the fire, flickering behind the loom like the ghosts of the ships this sail will one day carry. But for now, there is no sea, there is no wind, there is only the wool, the wood, and the weight. Clack, slide, thump. The stones are heavy. Your eyelids are heavier. Every beat of the wool drives you deeper into the straw of your bench. Every ring of the stones pulls you further away from the waking world. You are becoming part of the fabric. You are being woven into the winter. Ring and settle. Ring and settle. You leave the rhythmic clacking of the loom behind, moving deeper into the shadows of the settlement. The cold outside has sharpened. It is a blade of ice pressed against the timber of the walls. But as you approach the smithy, the air begins to change. It carries a new weight, a metallic, dry heat that tastes of scorched earth and ancient minerals. You wouldn't last a day in this heat because it is a jealous heat. It demands your total attention. Step inside. The forge is a cavern of deep amber and devouring black. There are no windows here, only the cracks between the logs where the moonlight bleeds in like frozen silver. In the center sits the forge, a raised bed of charcoal, glowing with a ferocity that seems impossible in a world of snow. Listen to the bellows. Hiss, sigh, hiss, sigh. The blacksmith's apprentice, a boy no older than 12, with eyes that have seen only the fire for 3 months, is pulling the lever. It is a large, double-chambered bellows made of cured oxhide. Every time he pulls, the leather groans. It is a rhythmic animal sound. The air is forced through a clay pipe into the heart of the coals. Watch the charcoal. It doesn't just burn, it breathes. As the air hits it, the embers transition from a dull, sleepy red to a blinding, sun-like white. This is the only sun you will see today. It is a trapped star held captive in a circle of stone. Hiss, sigh, hiss, sigh. The blacksmith reaches into the white heart with a pair of long iron tongs. He withdraws a bar of bog iron. It was pulled from the peat of the marsh 3 years ago, dried, smelted, and now it is ready to be reborn. The iron is no longer black. It is a shimmering, translucent orange, so hot that it seems to vibrate within itself. It is soft now. It has forgotten it was ever hard. It has forgotten the earth. He moves it to the anvil. The anvil is a massive block of iron set into a stump of ancient oak that goes deep into the frozen ground. Cling. The first strike is light, a tap to find the rhythm. Clang. The second strike is the world ending. The sound doesn't just hit your ears, it hits your chest. It vibrates through your ribs and settles in your spine. But because you are tired, because the winter has made you heavy, this sound doesn't startle you. It anchors you. It is a steady, predictable pulse. Clang, ring, clang, ring. The hammer falls, and 1,000 tiny stars, sparks of molten scale, shatter off the iron and die in the dust. They are brief. They are beautiful. They exist for a fraction of a second, dancing in the dark before they turn back into cold, black grit. Focus on the hammer. It is made of hardened steel, polished by 1,000 hours of contact with hot iron. It is an extension of the smith's arm. He doesn't swing with his muscles, he swings with his weight. He lets gravity do the work. Down and rebound, down and rebound. He is shaping a knife, not a sword for a hero, but a simple seeks for a farmer to cut his bread. He turns the iron, flip, tap, clang. The rhythm changes slightly, a syncopated beat that tells a story of form and function. The iron is cooling now. The orange is fading into a stubborn, bruised purple. It is becoming hard again. It is remembering its strength. Hiss, sigh, hiss, sigh. The blacksmith never stops. His movement is a loop, a circle of breath and leather. The smell of the forge is intoxicating, a mixture of burnt charcoal, hot metal, and the salt of the smith's sweat. It is the smell of the beginning of the world. You wouldn't last a day here because of the sheer crushing repetition.
To make this one blade, the hammer must fall 400 times, 400 identical strikes, 400 moments of absolute focus. If he looks away, the blade is ruined. If he strikes too hard, the iron splits. But you don't have to focus. You are the observer. You are the ghost in the corner of the smithy. You are leaning against the warm stones of the chimney. The heat is soaking into your cloak. It is thawing the marrow of your bones. Clang, ring, clang, ring. The sound begins to blur. The sharp ring of the anvil starts to sound like a bell in a distant fog. The sparks begin to look like fireflies in a summer night. You are drifting away from the Viking winter, pulled down by the weight of the iron. The smith is still working. He will be working when you fall asleep. He will be working when the sun tries to rise. The hammer is the heartbeat of the village, and as long as it beats, the world is safe. The dark cannot get in as long as the iron is hot. Tap, tap, settle. He plunges the blade into a barrel of brine. A cloud of white steam explodes upward, smelling of salt and scorched earth. It fills the room, obscuring the fire, turning the smith into a shadow in a cloud. The steam is warm. It brushes against your face like a damp silk veil. It carries away the last of your thoughts. The iron is quenched. The work is done. The silence returns. But it is a warmer silence now, a silence that has been earned by the hammer.
You leave the warmth of the forge, and the cold of the yard bites at the moisture on your skin. But you are not staying in the wind. You are stepping into the granary. If the forge is the heart of the Viking village, the granary is its memory. It is a small, raised timber building perched on 4 stone staddles to keep the damp and the rats away. Inside, the light is dim and filtered through the dust of 1,000 harvests. You wouldn't last a day here because you are used to the infinite abundance of a grocery store. You are used to the idea that food is a right, not a miracle. But here, you are standing in the middle of a countdown. Every grain of barley in these wooden bins is a tick of a clock. Every handful of dried peas is a minute of life stolen back from the winter. The smell is distinct. It is the smell of the ghost of summer. It is dry, golden, and slightly sweet, like sun-baked earth that has been trapped in a box. Listen to the sound of the quernstone. Grind and crunch. Grind and crunch. In the corner, an old man is sitting on the floor, his legs spread wide around 2 circular stones. The bottom stone is stationary, bedded into the earth. The top stone, the runner, is being turned by a wooden handle. This is the most boring sound in the Viking world, and yet it is the most important. It is the sound of the village surviving. Grind and crunch. Grind and crunch. You watch the grain, the hard golden kernels of barley, fall into the center hole of the stone. For a moment, they sit there defiant and whole. Then, the weight of the granite reaches them. You hear the microscopic scream of the husk shattering. You hear the internal structure of the grain being pulverized into a fine white powder. This isn't the white bleached flour of your time. This is living flour. It is speckled with brown bran. It is gritty. It is warm to the touch from the friction of the stones. You wouldn't last a day because of the labor of a single loaf of bread.
To make enough flour for one meal, this stone must turn 10,000 times. Think about that number. 10,000 circles, 10,000 rotations of the arm. The old man's shoulder is a map of this labor, one side bunched with muscle, the other lean and tired. Watch the grain fall from the edges of the stones. It moves like a slow-motion avalanche. It piles up in a soft, pale crescent on the leather cloth below. The dust rises. It hangs in the single shaft of light coming through the door. Focus on those dust motes. They are the history of the harvest. Each tiny speck is a piece of a field that felt the sun in July. Now they dance in the frozen air of December. They drift upward, swirling in the heat of your breath before settling on your eyelashes. They are as light as a dream. They are as quiet as the snow outside. Grind and crunch, grind and crunch. The rhythm is hypnotic. It starts to feel as if the room is spinning, not the stone. You feel the circularity of Viking life. Nothing is a straight line. Here, the seasons are a circle. The loom is a circle. The stone is a circle. You reach out and touch the grain in the bin. It is cold. It feels like thousands of tiny, smooth beads. You let them slip through your fingers, hiss, 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 back into the dark. Each grain is a potential life. Each grain is a promise that the sun will return. But for now, the sun is a memory. You are in the long middle, the time where nothing happens but the grinding. You wouldn't last a day because your mind would scream for a distraction. You would want music, you would want news, you would want a screen. But here, the only news is the texture of the flour. Is it too coarse? Is the stone getting too hot? That is your entire universe. Let your thoughts become coarse and heavy like the barley. Let them fall into the center of the quernstone. Feel the weight of the granite pressing down on your worries. Feel the friction of the world turning them into dust. Grind and crunch. Grind and crunch. The sound is deeper than a noise. It's a vibration in the floorboards. It travels up through your feet, into your knees, and settles in your hips. You are being ground down. The sharp edges of your day, the stress, the noise, the hurry, are being smoothed away by the stone. You are becoming fine. You are becoming soft. You are becoming the flour. The old man doesn't look up. He doesn't need to. He could do this in total darkness. He does do this in total darkness most days. He is a part of the machine. And as you watch the circular motion of his arm, your own eyes begin to follow, left and around, left and around. The world is a circle. The winter is a circle. And the circle is closing. You leave the dry, dusty scent of the granary and step back into the gray light of the yard. The snow is falling differently now. It isn't drifting. It is falling straight and heavy, like a curtain being drawn across the world. You move toward the low, sod-roofed long byre that leans against the main house. This is where the true biomass of the village resides. You wouldn't last a day here because you have forgotten what it means to coexist with the animal kingdom. In your world, animals are behind fences or in packages. Here, they are your central heating. They are your insurance policy against the grave. Open the heavy oak door. It doesn't creak. It groans under the weight of the frost. Immediately,
You are hit by a wall of the living heat. It is thick, it is wet, it smells of clover hay, old manure, and the sweet fermented breath of cattle. It is a humid tropical microclimate in the middle of a subarctic winter. The air is so thick with moisture that you can feel it cling to the back of your throat. Listen to the silence of the beasts. Hua, hua, That is the sound of 10 cows, 3 oxen, and a dozen sheep breathing in unison. It is a slow, rhythmic bellows that never stops. In the total darkness of the byre, you cannot see them at first. You only hear the shift of heavy bodies against timber, the thud of a hip, the clatter of a hoof on a stone floor. You find a spot against the wall, sitting on a pile of dry fern bedding. The heat begins to penetrate your cloak. It isn't the sharp, aggressive heat of the forge. It is a soft, radiating warmth. It is the heat of blood and life. You wouldn't last a day because of the intimacy of this filth. You are sitting in a room where the waste of the animals is a deliberate part of the insulation. The floor is deep with bedding, fermenting slowly to create its own internal warmth. You learn to appreciate the smell. To a Viking, the smell of a healthy cow in winter is the smell of wealth. It is the smell of a spring that might actually come. Focus on the cow closest to you. Her name is forgotten to history, but she is a small, hardy creature with a coat the color of dried mud. You can hear her ruminating. Grind, swallow. Grind, swallow. She is chewing the cud, reprocessing the dry gray grass gathered in the frantic weeks of August. It is a mechanical, infinite process. It is the sound of time being recycled. Every movement of her jaw is a testament to patience. She isn't bored. She isn't anxious. She is simply existing in the long wait. You watch the steam rising off her back. In the dim light, it looks like white spirits dancing towards the rafters. Every time she exhales, a plume of silver vapor shoots from her nostrils, swirling into the darkness. Exhale and rise. Exhale and rise. Let your own breath join the herd. Close your eyes and imagine you are part of this collective warmth. There is no I in the byre. There is only the we that breathes, the we that stays warm, the we that waits for the light. You feel the weight of your own body sinking into the ferns. The ferns are dry and brittle, snapping softly beneath you, like the memories of a summer forest. Crackle and settle, crackle and settle. You wouldn't last a day because your mind is constantly searching for purpose. You want to achieve things, but here the only achievement is the maintenance of a heartbeat. You watch the slow blink of the cow's large, dark eye. It is like looking into a deep obsidian well. There is no hurry there. There is no schedule. Think of the sheep in the corner. They are huddled together, a single mass of gray wool. You can hear the tiny rhythmic click of their teeth as they chew. You can hear the soft patter of their ears as they shake off a stray bit of frost. Click, patter, sigh. The byre is a cathedral of the mundane. It is a temple built of dung and breath. And as you sit there, the why you wouldn't last begins to change. It's not that the world is too hard. It's that your spirit is too loud. To survive here, you have to turn the volume of your soul down. You have to become as quiet as the cow, as patient as the sheep, as still as the frost on the door. The humidity is making your eyelids heavy.
The moisture is sealing your eyes shut with a gentle, warm pressure. You are breathing in the life of the animals, and they are breathing in yours. The exchange is silent. The exchange is ancient. You are drifting. The thud of a hoof sounds like a heartbeat in the earth. The hiss of the breath sounds like the sea on a distant shore. You are no longer an apprentice or a student or a person from the future. You are just a warm body in a cold world, waiting for the sun. Hua. Hua.
The gray ghost of midday has arrived. You leave the humid warmth of the animal byre and return to the main longhouse. The transition is sharp. The air in the yard is like a whetstone, cold and cutting, but the smoke rising from the thatch of the main hall promises a different kind of sanctuary. You wouldn't last a day because you are used to the solo meal. You are used to a world where eating is a private act, often done in front of a screen, hurried and disconnected. But in the Viking winter, the hearth is not just a stove, it is the gravity of the universe. To eat is to commune with the living and the dead. Step inside the hall. The fire in the long pit has been built up for the midday meal. It is no longer just embers, it is a steady architectural blaze of split birch and peat. Pop, sizzle, snap. A large soot-blackened iron cauldron hangs from a tripod over the flames. It is suspended by a heavy, hand-forged chain that clinks softly in the heat haze. Clink, sway, clink, sway. This cauldron is the eternal pot. It is never truly empty. Every day, new things are added. A handful of the flour you watched being ground, a scoop of dried peas from the granary, a few shriveled leeks salvaged from the frozen garden, and perhaps a piece of salt-cured pork that has been hanging in the rafters since October. It is a slow-motion alchemy. The flavors don't just mix, they marry. They sink into one another over the course of weeks, creating a taste that is deep, earthy, and ancient. You wouldn't last a day because of the waiting. You are used to instant heat. Here, the meal is ready when the fire says it is ready. Watch the surface of the pottage. It is a landscape of slow-moving craters. A bubble of thick gray-brown liquid rises to the surface, lingers for a moment, and then plop, rise, and plop, rise, and plop. The steam carries the scent of the entire Viking world. It is the smell of wood ash, the sweetness of the barley, the sharp tang of the salt pork, and the faint onion-like bite of the leeks. It is a heavy smell. It fills your lungs and tells your brain that for today at least, the hunger will stay behind the door. The women of the house move around the fire like priestesses. They carry wooden bowls, not ceramic, not plastic, but bowls carved from the burls of birch trees. These bowls are smooth, darkened by years of oil and use. They feel warm in the hand, even before the food is poured. Listen to the ladle. It is a long-handled wooden spoon that scrapes against the bottom of the iron pot. Scrape and swirl, scrape and swirl. The sound is rhythmic. It is a boring sound that to a hungry ear is more beautiful than a harp. The pottage is poured into the bowls. It doesn't splash, it settles. It is too thick to splash. It lies there, steaming and stubborn, a solid mass of calories meant to fuel the body against the 0-degree winds outside. You wouldn't last a day because of the silence of the meal. In the modern world,
We talk to fill the space. Here, the space is filled by the fire. The family sits on the benches, their shadows stretching long and thin against the tapestries on the walls. No one speaks. The only sound is the soft clink of wooden spoons against wooden balls. Toll and scrape, toll and scrape. The heat of the bowl begins to seep through your calluses and into your palms. You take a spoonful. It is hot, too hot, but you welcome the burn. It wakes up your throat. The texture is a journey, the softness of the boiled peas, the occasional grit of the stone-ground flour, the chewy resistance of the salt pork. It is not delicious in the way you understand. It is necessary. It is the flavor of survival. Feel the warmth spreading from your stomach to your extremities. It is like a slow tide of honey moving through your veins. Your toes, which have been numb since the dawn, begin to tingle. Your shoulders, hunched against the cold, finally drop. Inhale the steam. Exhale the tension. You wouldn't last a day because your mind wants newness, but there is a profound peace in the same. This is the same bowl with the same spoon, eating the same pottage in the same spot on the bench. It is a ritual that strips away the ego. You aren't an individual with a career and a 5-year plan. You are a biological engine being refueled in the dark. The fire begins to die down as the meal ends. The birch logs have turned into glowing skeletal structures of white ash. A single drop of water from the melting frost on the roof falls on a hot coal. Hiss. That tiny sound marks the end of the afternoon. The light outside the door is already failing. The midday was barely a heartbeat. The dark is coming back, and it is bringing the long night with it. You lean your head back against the timber wall. The wood is cool, but the fire is still radiating from your center. You are full. You are heavy. You are a stone in the foundation of the house. Scrape and swirl. Rise and plop. The cauldron continues to simmer even when the meal is over. It is the pulse of the house, and as the steam rises to the blackened rafters, your thoughts rise with it, becoming thin and gray and silent.
The sun has not set. It has simply surrendered. In the Viking North, the transition from day to night is not a sudden curtain. It is a slow, bruising bleed of colors, from a pale, sickly gray to a deep, oceanic blue. This is the blue hour. You wouldn't last a day here because you are used to the flick of a switch. You are used to the idea that darkness is an inconvenience. But here, the darkness is a physical presence that sits down beside you. It is a guest that refuses to leave. You move to the edge of the longhouse, where the last light is clinging to the doorway. Your task is simple, boring, and eternal. You are cleaning the equipment of the day. You have a handful of dry sand and a piece of coarse linen. You are scouring the rust from a wood axe. Scrub and hiss. Scrub and hiss. The sand is cold. It bites into the pads of your fingers. You can feel every individual grain of silica as it grinds against the iron. You wouldn't last a day because of the sheer soul-crushing repetition of maintenance. In your world, things are replaced. Here, things are preserved. If the rust eats the iron, the winter eats you. Focus on the sound of the sand. It is a dry, thirsty sound. It mimics the sound of the wind outside, which is now beginning to pick up, whistling through the eaves of the thatch. The axe head begins to shine, not with a bright modern luster, but with a dull, honest gray. Scrub and hiss. As the blue light deepens, the world outside becomes a silhouette.
The trees of the forest are no longer trees, they are jagged teeth against a violet sky. You watch the frost grow on the doorframe. It doesn't grow like a plant, it grows like a crystal, a silent white geometric invasion. You can almost hear it, a microscopic click, 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 as the water in the air turns into solid spears. You wouldn't last a day because the blue hour forces you to confront your own thoughts. There is no background noise. There is no content. There is only the axe, the sand, and the deepening blue. Your mind begins to drift. You start to think about the ancestors, the ones who sat in this exact spot 100 years ago, scrubbing the same iron, watching the same blue light. You aren't a person, you are a link in a chain. The darkness begins to pool in the corners of the room like spilled ink. It rises from the floor, swallowing the stools, the boots, the piles of rushes. You find yourself working more by touch than by sight. You feel the edge of the blade, not with your eyes, but with the sensitive skin of your thumb. It is cold, it is sharp, it is ready. Scrub and hiss. Now the light is gone. The blue hour has turned into the black hour. You pull the heavy oak door shut and drop the wooden bar into its cradle. Thud. The sound is final. The world of the outside is dead to you now. You are sealed in a wooden tomb, heated by a dying fire, waiting for the dawn that is 16 hours away.
The sun has not set. It has simply surrendered. In the Viking North, the transition from day to night is not a sudden curtain. It is a slow, bruising bleed of colors, from a pale, sickly gray to a deep oceanic blue. This is the blue hour. You wouldn't last a day here because you are used to the flick of a switch. You are used to the idea that darkness is an inconvenience. But here, the darkness is a physical presence that sits down beside you. It is a guest that refuses to leave. You move to the edge of the longhouse, where the last light is clinging to the doorway. Your task is simple, boring, and eternal. You are cleaning the equipment of the day. You have a handful of dry sand and a piece of coarse linen. You are scouring the rust from a wood axe. Scrub and hiss, scrub and hiss. The sand is cold. It bites into the pads of your fingers. You can feel every individual grain of silica as it grinds against the iron. You wouldn't last a day here because of the sheer, soul-crushing repetition of maintenance. In your world, things are replaced. Here, things are preserved. If the rust eats the iron, the winter eats you. Focus on the sound of the sand. It is a dry, thirsty sound. It mimics the sound of the wind outside, which is now beginning to pick up, whistling through the eaves of the thatch. The axe head begins to shine, not with a bright modern luster, but with a dull, honest gray. Scrub and hiss. As the blue light deepens, the world outside becomes a silhouette. The trees of the forest are no longer trees, they are jagged teeth against a violet sky. You watch the frost grow on the doorframe. It doesn't grow like a plant, it grows like a crystal, a silent white geometric invasion. You can almost hear it, a microscopic click, 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 as the water in the air turns into solid spears. You wouldn't last a day because the blue hour forces you to confront your own thoughts. There is no background noise, there is no content. There is only the axe, the sand, and the deepening blue. Your mind begins to drift. You start to think about the ancestors, the ones who sat in this exact spot 100 years ago, scrubbing the same iron, watching the same blue light. You aren't a person, you are a link in a chain. The darkness begins to pool in the corners of the room like spilled ink. It rises from the floor, swallowing the stools, the boots, the piles of rushes. You find yourself working more by touch than by sight. You feel the edge of the blade, not with your eyes, but with the sensitive skin of your thumb. It is cold, it is sharp, it is ready. Scrub and hiss. Now the light is gone. The blue hour has turned into the black hour. You pull the heavy oak door shut and drop the wooden bar into its cradle. Thud. The sound is final. The world of the outside is dead to you now. You are sealed in a wooden tomb, heated by a dying fire, waiting for the dawn that is 16 hours away. Movement 8. The shadow play and the oral tapestry. Narration note. The pace here shifts from the scrubbing rhythm to the flickering rhythm. Use long, flowing sentences that feel like liquid. Now that the door is barred, the interior of the longhouse becomes a universe of its own. The fire has been fed with a fresh armload of peat, heavy black blocks of ancient moss that burn with a low blue flame and a thick, sweet smoke. You wouldn't last a day here because of the social silence. In the modern world, we are surrounded by voices, podcasts, music, chatter. Here, the voices are silent until the work is done. The family sits in a circle around the hearth. The light does not reach the walls, it only reaches the faces. Look at the faces. They are transformed by the fire. The flickering orange light creates shadow masks. A brow becomes a mountain, a cheekbone becomes a ridge of stone. The eyes are just dark pits reflecting the tiny dancing twin flames of the hearth. You wouldn't last a day because your brain is trained for high-speed narrative. You want a climax, you want a plot twist, but this story has no twist. It is a circle, it is a genealogy, it is a list of names.
Athelstan, son of Bjorn, Bjorn, son of Eric, Eric, son of the sea. The repetition is the point. It is a mnemonic cradle. It rocks your brain into a state of semi-consciousness. You watch the smoke rise. The smoke is the ink of the air. It curls and twists, forming shapes that look like the dragons of the stories. You see a long ship in the smoke. You see a shield wall. You see a forest. Flicker and fade. Flicker and fade. The heat of the peat smoke makes your skin feel tight and dry. You are leaning against the shoulder of someone you don't know, but their warmth is your warmth. In the Viking winter, the self dissolves. You are just a warm animal in a huddle. You feel the vibrations of the storyteller's voice in the floorboards. It is a low-frequency hum that travels through your bones. It is the bass note of history. Hum and pulse. Hum and pulse. The darkness outside is screaming with wind, but inside, the story is a shield. The story is a wall. You realize you wouldn't last a day because you have forgotten how to listen with your whole body. You listen with your ears. A Viking listens with their blood. The story slows down. The names become longer, the pauses more frequent. The storyteller is tired. The fire is settling into a deep, glowing bed of white sleep, the ash that covers the embers. Flicker and fade. You are no longer thinking about the what if. You are no longer wondering if you would last a day. You have already lasted. You have become the blue hour. You have become the shadow on the wall. You are being pulled down by the weight of 1,000 years of winter. The voice of the old woman becomes a whisper that is indistinguishable from the sound of the wind. Stay and sleep. Stay and sleep.
The story has ended, but the night has only just begun. You move away from the dying embers of the hearth, navigating the long house not by sight, but by the memory of the floorboards under your feet. You wouldn't last a day here, because you are used to the sanitary sleep. You are used to bleached sheets, foam mattresses, and the absence of life in your bedding. But here, your bed is a living thing. It is a wooden box built into the very frame of the house, filled with a deep, rustling sea of barley straw and dried ferns. Step into the bed box. Crackle, crunch, settle, hiss. The straw is not soft like a cloud. It is firm and structural. It supports you, but it also speaks to you. Every time you shift your weight, the straw sighs. It is a hollow, golden sound. You wouldn't last a day because of this noise, the constant microscopic rustling of 1,000 dried stalks. But as you lie there, it becomes the white noise of the 10th century. It is the sound of the field, dead and dry, protecting you from the frost. Now pull the skins over you. This is the weight of the north. You aren't covered by a duvet. You are covered by the history of the hunt. First, a heavy, coarse woolen blanket, thick with the smell of the loom and the sheep. Then the furs. Feel the texture of the reindeer hide. The hair is hollow and coarse. It traps the air, creating a pocket of heat that is your only defense against the creeping ice. It is heavy. It presses your legs down. It presses your chest down. Heavy and warm. Heavy and warm. You wouldn't last a day because the darkness is not empty, it is thick. In the modern world, even in the middle of the night, there is a light pollution of the mind. You have the memory of the sun. But here, in the Viking winter,
The darkness is a heavy velvet cloth pulled over your face. You can feel it on your skin. It is cool and still. Listen to the house sleeping. Creak, pop, sigh, rustle. The timber of the walls is shrinking in the cold. It pops with a sharp wooden report that echoes in the rafters. The thatch above you is breathing. The wind outside is trying to find a way in, but it can only whistle through the smoke hole, a distant, lonely flute. Whistle and fade, whistle and fade. You find yourself focusing on your own breathing. It is the loudest thing in the universe. Inhale and the straw rustles. Exhale and the air cools. You wouldn't last a day because your mind wants to do, but there is nothing to do. You cannot read. You cannot see your own hand in front of your face. You are forced to exist in the sensory void. You begin to count the breaths of the people around you. To your left, the steady, rhythmic wheeze of an old man. To your right, the soft, fluttering breath of a child. In the distance, the low bass note hum of the cattle in the byre. It is a symphony of survival. Pulse and breath, pulse and breath. The cold is trying to get in. You can feel it at the very edge of the bed box, a thin silver needle of air that touches your nose. But inside the furs, you are a furnace. You are a secret. You are a hidden spark in the middle of a frozen world. The weight of the wool is becoming your identity. You are no longer a body. You are a sensation of warmth. You are a dream of the earth. The straw beneath you begins to feel like sand. The wood of the bed box begins to feel like the hull of a ship rocking slowly on a dark, silent sea. You are sailing into the night. You are leaving the day behind. The Viking winter has claimed you, not with a blade and not with the frost, but with the boredom, the beautiful, crushing, life-saving boredom of the dark.
And now the world disappears entirely. There is no longhouse, there is no Viking, there is only the rhythm. You are dreaming of the sun, but the sun is 1 billion miles away. It is a tiny golden grain of barley at the bottom of a deep blue well. You are watching it spin, spin and drift, spin and drift. The sun is the quernstone. The sun is the loom weight. The sun is the spark in the blacksmith's forge. It is all the same thing. It is the circle that never ends. You wouldn't last a day because you are used to the end of things, but here, in the deep sleep of history, there is no end. There is only the repetition. The winter will end, and the summer will come, and the winter will return. The thread will be woven, and the cloth will tear, and the thread will be woven again. The thread and the stone and the thread. Your thoughts are like the dust motes in the granary. They are rising, they are swirling in a slow, hypnotic dance. They are falling into the straw. Fall and settle, fall and settle. The weight is perfect, the weight is total. Your feet are heavy, your knees are heavy, your hips are heavy. Your heart is a slow rhythmic drum beating deep underground. Thump, 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 thump. Listen to the snow. You can't hear it fall, but you can hear the silence it creates. It is a white silence. It is a deep silence. It is a silence that goes back 1,000 years. You are walking through that silence. You are walking back to the beginning.
You are a shadow in the blue hour. You are a spark in the peat smoke. You are the breath of the beast in the dark. Breathe in the dark. Breathe out the light. There is nothing to fear. The door is barred. The fire is ash. The winter is your blanket. You are safe in the boring history. You are safe in the long gray sleep. The names of the kings are fading. The names of the tools are fading. The names of the days are fading. Fade and sleep. Fade and sleep. The circle is closed. The stone has stopped turning. The loom is still. The winter is won. Sleep, sleep, sleep.